campaign. He says he will finish the rest of his term, and he's throwing his support behind Vice President Kamala Harris.
But today's news wasn't exactly a surprise. Joining us to discuss this is Professor Suzanne Chad of North Central College. Thanks for joining us again via Zoom.
Yeah, thanks. Good to talk to you both.
Okay, glad that you are here. We noticed that the Joe Biden for President FEC filing has changed to Harris for President. It's not that simple. There are delegates who are supposed to vote for Joe Biden, nominate him for president at the DNC. So now what happens?
So now what happens is Vice President Harris has said in her statement that she will earn the nomination, that she will work as hard as she has to earn the nomination. She's not expecting it to be handed to her, nor would that be good for the party in that case. And so what will happen now is what would have happened sort of anyway, which is that the delegates would make a decision on for whom to cast their votes. Because of the way the rules are written, it doesn't say that the delegates have to cast the vote for the person that won the primary. It says that in good conscience, they will reflect the sentiments of the people that they serve. So now they make a decision about what reflects the sentiments of the people they serve. And that can happen in a roll call vote with the DNC as early as the first week of August, at least if nothing else to get it to take the temperature to see where the delegates are. And then the voting that would typically happen like a regular convention on the floor, in this case here in Chicago in August.
All right, Suzanne, so no surprise here, but Kamala Harris, she's a Black and Asian woman. Wondering how will identity play a role in this campaign, and if she does indeed receive the nomination, if that's the case, who is her best pick for a VP nominee?
It's such a great question and an important one. The fact that we as a nation have to talk about the identity of our candidates tells us that it is still a deciding factor for who voters feel they can cast their vote for and who they feel can serve the country. We are still, we still have racism and sexism very prevalent in this nation. And so the discussion of balancing a ticket, if a Black woman is at the top of the ticket, the discussion is about would we need to see a white man next to her on that ticket? And I think history and data and evidence suggest that that is the case. And I think that the party, because the goal is to win in November, is going to be strategic about who they think can best complement Vice President Harris if she is at the top of the ticket.
Governor J.B. Pritzker did not endorse Kamala Harris in his statement praising Joe Biden earlier today. The Chicago Tribune reporting tonight that the governor may make some sort of statement tomorrow. How likely is it someone like Governor Pritzker or Governor Whitmer of Michigan can put together a campaign operation and take on the Republicans in just 4 months?
Yeah, it's a very tight turnaround. The timing is not necessarily ideal. Vetting a vice presidential candidate takes a lot of time. It should take a lot of time. But things can go quickly if they need to go quickly. We've seen that in politics. And if we look at someone like J.B. Pritzker, who was mostly a self-financed candidate when he ran for governor, he's got those resources and a war chest built up. And Gretchen Whitmer, to that, would have her war chest built up as well. It wouldn't surprise me, however, because things are done so methodically and strategically with the party operation, that a vetting wasn't already happening for some candidates in case this happened. So I think there's probably been already some discussion and vetting that's been going on.
All right, and Suzanne, we've got about 30 seconds left, but question. There are talks from Republicans, including Trump, for Biden to flat out resign from the presidency right now. Is that something you think Republicans will actually take seriously and stand on?
I think it serves their interest to say it because they can run on it, right? If he has exited the race, it's because he's not fit to serve in any capacity at all. But I think what President Biden is saying is, I need to focus on this job I have and not split my time between this other job, which running for office is another job.
All right, Suzanne Chad, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
All right, take care.
You too.